Hi everyone, this is New Sensei. Some people who have been watching my recent Olympic archery videos have been very critical about the style and equipment used, and among other things, one of the scathing comments is, well, why don't you just put a laser sight on the bow? Well, don't worry, I'm kidding. This is not a real bow. This is the AccuBow. It is a training device that started on Kickstarter, and it has a few interesting features. The main feature is the bow shape, which is much different from a normal stretching band. It has an adjustable latex band, which allows you to train from very low draw weights to very high draw weights. But the distinguishing feature of this training device is that it does come with a laser pointer. I know most people who say this comment about laser sights on bows do it sarcastically as a way to mock archery equipment, but being serious though, why don't bows use laser sights? You can find laser sights online for bows. These are very rare, like they're not normally used because most people have no use for them, and I feel that at times these sights are kind of sold without the best interest of the archer in mind. The other problem with these sights is that, well, you need to see the sight, to see the laser on the target, and at typical shooting distances, which might be 30 to 70 meters away. You can see lasers that far if the laser is strong enough. However, there may be legal limitations as to what kind of lasers you can acquire. When most people talk about laser sights, they refer to what they've seen in movies and video games, where the laser sight is a red dot which paints a target, and that shows you where the bullet will land, and therefore you don't need to aim. A laser sight is not that simple, and anyone who is familiar with firearms and laser sights will understand that there are numerous problems which can arise even though you are using a laser sight. At the same time, I'm going to address the common criticism of Olympic-style archers that apparently can't grip their bows, and that a skilled shooter should be able to keep the bow on target. The last criticism is often from people who have never handled a bow. You greatly underestimate how much natural shake there is in the human form. It is impossible for someone to entirely mitigate that shake. It doesn't matter how skilled you are, it is impossible to mitigate. I will show you. In archery, a laser can be a useful diagnostic tool. An archer might use a laser to help them identify the point of aim and their alignment. At the same time, the laser can also help spotlight exactly how much the bow is shaking. And again, there is always an inherent amount of shake in the shooter. The body is tense. It is impossible to keep the bow perfectly still. Let's see. So what I'm going to do is stand 3 meters away from the door, and I'm going to point the laser on the door handle. I'm going to be using a 10-pound draw on the AccuBow, which is the lightest draw, which means I should have perfect control of my bow. Pay attention to the way the laser pointer moves. And this is me holding the bow as still as I can. And that was about a 10-second hold. If I do it again, fresh draw, on target. It's not any better, is it? This isn't me intentionally showing that I can't hold a bow. I'm not a novice, but you can see that the laser sight is very twitchy on the target, and even holding the bow normally, it's very hard to keep still. That is the inherent inaccuracy in the human body. The fact that we're supporting a bow with our upper body and our arms with no other support means that it is impossible to hold this still. Now, you might think, well, you're using a 10-pound draw. If you use a heavier draw, then you should be able to hold it steady. In actuality, a heavier bow is hard to keep steady, especially if you're not an experienced shooter. But for the sake of the argument, let's wind this thing up to a heavier draw weight and see what happens. So again, we are approximately 3 meters away. I'm using what is approximately a 40-pound draw. So we'll try and keep this still at full draw, and it's a lot harder than it looks. You can see it's actually an increased shake. Wow, that's a lot of shake. Okay, let's try again. I'm going to be using about a mid 40-pound draw. That's even worse. All archers accept that there is an inherent amount of shake. Now, good conditioning and practice and training will help mitigate the degree of shake that you have, but there will always be some sort of shake in your upper body, in your arms, in your hand, in your fingers. And you saw on a tiny doorknob at 3 meters how much variation there is. In fact, archers who are trained for target shooting are told not to try to keep the sight steady on target because it's impossible. The archer will cause more problems trying to hold the sight steady than letting the sight float. Archers will let the sight float and will execute the best possible shot subconsciously. That is why archers use stabilizers. Stabilizers help keep the bow stable on all axes. That is also why archers who are doing target shooting will keep a loose grip or keep an open grip so they don't have that extra tension from the hand. Every little bit makes the sight go off, as you saw before. Remember, a few millimeters off here means centimeters or even meters off at the target at the other end. That is why a barebow shooter or a longbow shooter or traditional shooter cannot consistently hit the target without some kind of aid. This isn't an attack against traditional shooters, but many people overestimate how accurate former archers were. The fact is, it cannot be done. It is a superhuman ability to hold perfectly still. You would need a high-tech modern nanosuit to do so. And if you think I'm exaggerating, you try it yourself. Take out your cell phone, use the camera app, use maximum zoom, and try to hold the thing steady. You can't. And that is why professional cameramen have harnesses and rigs that cost more than a camera itself, because you cannot attain perfection with your bare hands. What does this have to do with laser sights? You can't keep the thing on target. That defeats the whole purpose of a laser sight. Another problem is that you can only calibrate the laser sight for one distance. This isn't too bad for a firearm, where if you sight to 50 meters, then your bullet should still impact near that laser dot regardless of whether you're at 10 meters or 50 meters. For a bow, the ballistics of the arrow make a big difference. Your arrow will land completely differently if you're at 20 meters compared to 50 meters. You cannot make a sight work unless that target is that one specific distance. The biggest problem with the laser sight and sights in general is that it doesn't automatically make you a good shot, and the same problem is seen with firearms. With firearms, you need a good grip, good muzzle control, and good trigger control. If you don't have these things, then it doesn't matter if you're using a laser sight, you will not hit your target. Similar things apply to archery. You require a consistent anchor point. You need to make sure the bow is held at the right angle or perfectly straight. You need to make sure your shot execution and release are perfect. If you don't have these things, it doesn't matter what sight you use, whether it's bare bow, iron sight, or laser. The thing with a laser sight is that the dot is on the target there, but it doesn't tell you what you are doing here. What if you are holding it too low and you don't realize it? What if it's too angled and you don't realize it? The sight will not tell you that, but your shot will reveal everything. It's not even useful in a tactical situation. Again, because painting the target with a laser doesn't mean you will hit it. The fact that you can angle the bow in any way or draw it to any point in your body in a snapshot situation means that your arrow can go anywhere from directly on target to 5 meters off. That is why the laser sight is really a more ninja thing. You don't see it on bows because functionally it doesn't have a place in the shot process, nor does it have a place in most applications of archery today. If you happen to be in a zombie apocalypse scenario, then a laser sight is not your answer. You may as well rely on instinctive. In summary, is it possible to mount a laser sight on a bow? Yes, physically it's possible. However, there is very little reason to do so. In fact, there are several reasons why you shouldn't. The first reason is that inherently we humans are unstable shooting platforms. It is impossible for us to maintain the bead on the target. If you can't maintain a bead on target, what's the point of using a laser sight? The second reason is that the laser sight does not replace form. The laser sight will not inform you if you are anchored correctly or aligned correctly. It's simply a single point of reference on the target. It doesn't reflect what you are doing here. Good accuracy is achieved from good form, not from good sight, and that applies to all forms of shooting. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting. This is New Sensei. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.